Hey STYKO, how you doing, man?
Yeah, doing good. Glad to be on. Long time no see. I'm actually seeing you a lot lately. I'm watching your podcast, your content.
Nice.
So it's a one way route for me, but I'm glad to be on.
No, I've always enjoyed talking to you. You've always been a really chill guy. Um, Obviously, you've had like a long history from CS:GO to CS2. For the newer players, they might not remember your kind of peak was probably mouse sports. I would say
Mm.
like that was probably like your highest level, most consistent team that won the most events. So I kind of wanted to start right there. One of my questions was going to be, how was your time in mouse sports? Was it as chaotic inside the team as kind of like people let on? Like it always seemed like there was some internal issues, maybe not like fighting, but maybe like factions within the team that like maybe didn't agree on things. And secondly, I wanted to get your opinion because you were very close. And like when I say these things, it's just based on what I've heard. So I don't know if they're facts. So if I'm wrong, you can correct me. But you were always kind of close to Oscar. Like I always felt
Yep.
like Oscar and you were kind of like, I don't want to say a package deal, but like you really helped like elevate his gameplay. It seemed like, and like could you go into any details on that?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, mouse sports was kind of a first big deal for me. It was my second international team. We peaked number two in the world. We were constantly battling and con constantly getting the playoffs of big tournaments and then losing to Astralis back then or something like that. So it was pretty tough to play against them, and we never really beat them. Um, but yeah, the internal atmosphere, I would say it was definitely chaotic if I'm comparing it to anything what happened later in my career. Because at that point, the events and the whole vibe and professionalism wasn't as good as you probably see right now.
Yeah.
Like people are having set schedules, set routines, they're thinking about events, which to attend, which not to attend, individual routines, all that kind of shizzle. And that was just not happening back then. Like it was pretty, on the fly and kind of go for it and let's see what happens. Other only team that I think was kind of um, doing things differently were Australis, and I think that's why they were consistent back then, and they created an era solely because of this. I truly believe this is what made them so impactful, and while people try to copy them for so much
Are you
time.
talking kind of like how they did stuff like outside the game, like kind of like their
Exactly.
regiment, like kind of working out a little bit, having a coach and analyst, like all that?
Yeah, I'm talking exactly about that. So even the mental preparations, I think they took it like one, two, three steps further than any other team. And actually, Lars Robel, that was their performance coach back then when they won three majors, which is like performance coach now of Falcons. He made a book. He wrote a book. It's in Danish and English. I read it immediately as it came out, and he's going into a lot of details of what they were doing, like some kind of team sessions, and they were really, really valuable to me right now in 2023. So imagine how effective they must have been in 2016 or so. So overall, Australians were kind of setting a precedent, and mouse sports, we weren't really even nowhere near that. I think we were like kind of like glorified FPL players or FPL stack. We definitely had some rules, strats, protocols, but it wasn't as in depth. It was all kind of intuitive Counter Strike, and intuition was running really, really strong, especially with Oskar on the op. He was just letting things happen, and Sunny as well. Chris Shea was crazy, crazy good when it comes to these individual things. Robs was kind of beginning to shine. I would say he was still this anchor position, but he wasn't like carrying the heck out of the games like he's now, or he was at some point.
He always felt like he was
But
your rock, like he was the one that kind of played
oh,
passive and like held the CT side together sometimes a little bit.
yeah, exactly. Like he was pretty consistent. You knew what you will get out of the guy, and he will deliver most of the time, despite his young age and lack of experience. So yeah, we were gathering experiences, but we never got over the hump into actually winning trophies, or like we did win some, but um, we didn't really beat Astralis, I would say. And then we decided, or Mousepers decided that it's not enough. and I was benched. And after a brief period, I actually got into Cloud9. So I was standing in for 2 months. I was living in LA briefly. And then Mousesports realized after signing Snacks that, okay, this is not working. We need something different. And they brought me back. And then it all kind of collapsed very soon. And then I went away from Tier 1 Counter-Strike for some time. I had to fight back basically through a bunch of teams that were going from the ground up, having no organization, having bad organizations, having, basically claw back into the Tier 1. And that's how it all kind of happened.
Yeah, so when you, when you say claw back from Tier 1, I kind of had to do the same thing. I don't think I ever really reached back to Tier 1. Um, do you feel like that's something where it's... Do you think if you're a Tier 1 player and you either get replaced or maybe, your team disbands or whatever, do you think it's good to work through the Tier 2 or like kind of do what JKS and those players do where they just kind of just sit and wait? Like, I guess it depends on how high your stock is, like if you're able to wait. But I notice like some people just instantly join a Tier 2 team, and it's almost like once you go into Tier 2, like you don't really get picked up by Tier 1 as much anymore.
I I don't think you should sit out for way too long. I think that's gonna tank your career in a lot of ways. Like people have such short memory in this kind of industry that it's crazy. Like if you didn't play a game for 3 months and on HLTV it kind of shows 0 games per 3 months, people don't even bother checking the last 6 months and seeing when you're actually playing last game. If you were active, they just consider you like you're retired pretty much.
Yeah.
It's over. It's over. So I'm always a fan of obviously not taking the first option that comes, but I feel like even Guardian kind of did this where he he left FaZe, I believe, and then he was waiting for the right offer, which was never really coming, and then only option years after was to go back into national scene and kind of play with players, and he quickly realized that he's not going to be doing well there, and then he transitioned to the coach. I think if he had taken a step back after that phase and maybe go from tier 2 and try to grind back up, I think that's going to be much more successful. But that's just my opinion. I think JKS, what you brought up, is an anomaly in a Counter-Strike for some reason. And it worked out for him, and I'm glad. But I think it's an anomaly story.
No, I kind of agree. I do think unless you're simple or someone that's going to be able to get people to believe in you no matter what, it's probably better to join the tier 2 if you still plan on playing. I think one of the things I heard Forrest talking about was like he still wants to play tier 1, but he really doesn't want to do the grind anymore, which I understand. He's at like, later 30s. He's been playing tier 1 for like 15 years. So for him I can understand like he just doesn't want to do the grind again. But I think for anyone that doesn't have such a long career, I think getting in tier 2 is probably the right call, right? Plus it's not like you can't make any money in tier 2 either. Like it's not as good as tier 1, but at least you can you can still get a salary and stuff these days. So I was just curious about Oskar. So when I've always been on like good terms with him. I talk to him every once in a while, but like he's always been one of those oppers that's kind of like you kind of almost compare him as like a top 5, top 10 opper, but really like chaotic, I guess. Like it seems like he kind of does whatever he wants. Like there's that, I don't know if you remember, but it was like a train major qualifier game, and he just went up the ladder and opped someone on the ladder, like on train. Like he did, like as a CT, he just runs and like that's just like you don't even see JW do stuff like like some of the stuff. Like JW probably the closest person I think you could really compare Oskar to. But so how was his playstyle? Like how did you guys like kind of incorporate him into the game, and is his personality issues that I've always heard about, like why he couldn't get back on tier 1, is this true? Is this overblown? Like is he just kind of like an introverted guy? Like how does that work?
Yeah, so about his playstyle, I guess comparing him to JW is like makes a lot of sense. How we incorporate him into the team is that yeah, basically we let him do whatever he wants, and sometimes he goes off the script. Just there were very little scripts we had in mouse sports, but
Yeah.
he goes off the script very likely. And once he does, it kind of, you have to, as a player, to understand what the hell he's even doing without saying what he's doing. So for me, I think like 50% of my playtime on mouse sports is just looking at the radar, understanding what the hell is happening. And because, yeah,
Because
it was
Sonny was
just something
aggressive
that,
too, right? Like,
oh yeah, he was. Chris J was aggressive on T sides. He was just insanely good. And then us, me and Robs, since we were a little bit more static when it comes to our roles, we can, you know, afford to block certain area and buy us time to actually look at the radar or read the game. If someone pushed somewhere and he got contact, then kind of read what they were trying to do and play accordingly. So actually, my time on mouse sports, it really developed me as a player because I was suddenly able to read the game a lot. Obviously, when I compare it to Counter-Strike right now, it's nothing because it developed so much over the years and the layers just kept on stacking on each other. But at that point, I think I was like really able to read the game, but I wasn't really sure how to communicate it or why communicating it, you know? Like I couldn't really find words in the heat of the moment. And in most sports, I feel like we were just on point when it comes to this. Like all of us knew, but we didn't know how to put it into words. And that's why I
just kind of like
think
chemistry, like you kind of, yeah, just
oh
like,
yeah, yeah. I think it's because we were playing exactly the same way in practice, and that's
right.
paid kind of dividends. And yeah, when it comes to Oskar himself, um, about the personality issue, I don't even want to call it issues because it's not like something terrible is happening with him. You know, he is like introverted. He was, at least at that point, and we were kind of a package deal because he got offered to his first international team, and I guess he wasn't really comfortable in talking English, and he thought that bringing me as well would kind of make it more friendly environment for him. And thanks to this, basically, he got me a spot on Hellraisers, which eventually became our first pro team. Later on, we went to Mousesports together, and honestly, back then, like he was nuts, and because he was so individually skilled, all of the things we ignored, and I don't even want to call them like red flags, but yeah, he was like a little bit, sometimes a little bit shy, sometimes he wasn't talking too much, and when he was talking, it was like he couldn't really put things into words because English wasn't his first language, so he was like struggling with this, but. Overall, I had pretty good relationship with him personally on personal basis at least.
Yeah.
But what he's doing right now in Sinners, I heard that he's changed a lot, and I've had some talks with him. He seems really nice. He seems really hardworking as well. He kind of found that like spot in life where he's kind of happy. He has I believe he has wife, he has kids, so all these kind of things kind of happen to him, and obviously it's gonna change you. Like you're gonna be so much different person when you compare yourself in 25 and then 30. Those
Yeah.
5 years of your life are gonna change you and shape you in a lot of ways, especially when you have birth of a child and then marriage, etc., etc. And obviously, like right now, he's a machine even in tier 2, and it's kind of crazy that he keeps doing that at 33 or 34 or
Yeah,
however old
he's got to be one of the best older players, right? Like
Oh yeah,
I can't really think like there's Fallen and stuff, but I mean obviously I think Oscar's a little bit more talented. Don't kill me Brazilians, but I don't know, like just raw skill, like he still got it. Like he still seems like he's got it. Now, when he said sorry, when he said he doesn't maybe say everything. So if he was going to go up like the ladder and train, would he tell you he's going in the ladder room? Like would he be like
no,
taking my op ladder, or all of a sudden you see on the radar like this dude, your opper just flying towards that, and you're like, hey, what's going on? Like, is that what
yeah.
happened?
I don't think we would ever hear him tell, "Oh, I have a timing. I'm going up ladder."
Okay,
Like, yeah, it kind of just happens. He's playing a lot of intuitive Counter-Strike, and the thing about him, I noticed this in the demos because I obviously never played against him being on this team, but I saw it on the demos. He was incredibly fast, and I'm not saying like fast as a reaction time, but fast as a his model in game was actually moving so fast because he has like very specific way of like taking op peaks is that he scopes extremely late. He was basically like quick scoping. And because he's scoping after he spots an enemy, that's why he's still in like maximum movement during the peak. And it's so hard to react to that kind of shot. Even in CSGO, it's even harder in CS2. And right now, I would probably say like Monas is kind of trying to do. He's definitely above Oskar when it comes to movement, but it's because Monasi, whenever he like misses a shot and he jumps away, you can see him that he's like air strafing as well to gain that extra
Yeah.
little bit of movement. Some people just don't bother because, well, whatever, I'm jumping away, it's fine. But actually, those pixels that you can get through air strafing matters a lot of times. And it's just what makes Monasi so hard to hit. I think that's Oskar was doing something similar in CSGO. He was like first guy that actually took advantage of proper movement, I would say.
Yeah, no, I always thought like movement's a little bit underrated in pro scene. I'm not saying you should go spend hours perfecting your, air strafes, but even as an opera, even if you're on Inferno, you take a shot mid. If you can, air strafe, get a couple pixels ahead, you can go around a corner and live, right? Like it can save your life. So I wanted to take you back really quick to when you said you guys were kind of loose in practice and you kind of played like in the same way in real matches. I feel like that's the number one reason teams perform poorly that are kind of like onliner teams or like scrim teams is like they don't really have the most set strats and protocols, but which is fine if you're all making the plays and calming and everything. Like obviously, if I could pick, I'd rather you have more things like hashed out. But if you're gonna play like that, I feel like one of the issues is people go into matches and then they just get frayed, right? Like they don't if they were let's say Oskar walks through a smoke or you walk through upper B smoke on Mirage. If you're gonna make these weird smoke plays and you're gonna do these weird timings, you have to do them all the time, right? Like you have to keep playing in your match the same way that you played in a scrim. So for you guys on Mouse Wars, I guess you just like kind of like just accepted that you guys are going to keep playing the same exact way on LAN, like matches, whatever. You just like, what did anyone ever get mad at someone for making a like? Was it like, why did you push that smoke, or is it kind of just like accepted that people make plays and sometimes they don't work out?
I think we were accepting it pretty well, all of us, because that's what was happening every single game. Even if we were winning like 16-5, there were like 8 to 10 situations during that win, like quite comfortable win, where people, if they got mad at each other for like pushing a smoke for no real reason, then we would be just fighting. But we will salvage the round. Even if that certain push doesn't work and we lose an advantage, we will somehow win the round because we have such good players. And what you were saying about the fear, like, is Oskar ever scared to make a play in official game or a tournament or a stage game or major? Like, that's the thing. Like, he was lacking some emotions which made him introverted and made him maybe a little bit harder to talk to or get along with. However, he also, I feel like, missed the emotion of fear, which kind of was working in our way because he was literally doing the same thing most of the time. And then, yes, there were games where he just didn't feel it. We were losing those games. It's fine. It happens. No one can be super consistent. But we were, we were able to pick up the slack most of the time, at least with an op, because we had Chris J on the team. And he was different, like, kind of opper than Oskar, obviously a little bit less sharp, but he was definitely able to pick up the second op whenever needed, and he was fulfilling the op job. And Oskar was buying something else, shotgun, M4, like whatever he wanted.
It's just interesting how you say it, because in North America, I feel like one of our problems that I think we had, and maybe this isn't as much of a problem anymore, but definitely during that period, when you guys were on top of most sports, excluding potentially Liquid, we had a lot of teams that kind of played loose, right? Like they didn't have everything set, probably very similar to your team. But it was kind of like one of those weird situations where as soon as things go wrong in a match in NA, people will start blaming a lot. So they'll be like, why did you push that smoke? But in a scrim, they wouldn't say anything. You know what I mean? It's only because it's a match. And I think like that's a huge factor in like why a lot of NA teams just kind of would implode in on themselves because they'd be so like critical. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like obviously I've not played in every European team, but I've watched a lot of like demos and stuff, and there's chat, and like sometimes you'll see a guy do something kind of stupid and he'll die, and like I would see like Device just type like nice try, whereas like in North America I feel like people are like, yo, why did you could have done that, and like they like start doing that, and it just like creates frustration and stuff. So I feel like just from the outside it seems like Europeans are better at kind of like letting things go on your teams, and like just accepting that like, yo, like people make mistakes, we don't all play the same. And in North America, people are very backseat gamer. Like so anyways, that was just like one of my thoughts.
I completely agree with you. Like during the game, this is something that you should be avoiding at all costs. Like if someone makes a mistake, there's literally nothing. If it's already made, there's literally nothing you can do about it anymore. Only thing that it can create is a frustration for the future round, or make him a little bit scared, more reserved, or passive, which is what you don't want to do. Like especially if you're not doing the same kind of arguing in the scrim or in the practice, because people there, they will always like say, but it's practice. Like I pushed him because it's 4v1, of course, but it actually matters. Like how many routines you build in the practice and scrims, and how basically people play there, that's how things will go in official game. And I think Simple said one time, like, if I see dumb shit being done on practice, I'm 100% sure if I don't point it out, it will at some point happen in the official game. And if that happens in the official game, it's a big mistake, because then we will probably lose that game and we will lose championship. And that's why Simple is probably, pain to deal with during practice, because he's pointing out a lot of mistakes. But I would rather take that any day, anytime, over someone who just ignores it. And if I'm going to be ever on a team again, I will always be pretty strict about the way we practice. And having a coach who actually keeps track of mistakes, individual mistakes, and then we rewatch them. We don't need to point them out in the heat of the moment because, well, we don't see POVs of everyone. But coach needs to take notes of it. And that's what rewatch after each scrim or scrim day is actually for 30 minutes. We can just quickly blitz through it, but we have to point it out.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think like that was one of the hardest things for me coaching, is like managing personalities of people that don't want to do review, do want to do review. And in the tier 2, it was a little difficult at the start with different players, but as the roster kind of got more developed, it got easier to do it. But I definitely agree. It's like when you harp on people in a live match, you just ruin confidence, and then it's not helping anyone, right? Like it's not like you're going to go back in time and like redo the round. So it really doesn't matter. Like you just got to say nice try, move forward, and like move past the round. But what you said about practice and just like kind of reviewing is really important for a lot of like people to hear. Is like you have to make sure that everything is being accounted for, unless you're a loose team, right? Like if you are committing to being a loose team, then like you have to commit to it. But you got to pick one. I feel like you can't half it. You can't like half care about mistakes, because then it just creates like this weird environment where like you're not sure if someone's going to call you out on your play or not.
Yeah.
But I mean, but like you said, that's probably why Astralis was like so dominant in that era, because everyone else was a little sloppy and they had everything like run like a machine.
Yeah.
But moving on from like Mousesports, you eventually did you take a break or what did you do right after? Because I know eventually you joined Apex.
Yeah. Basically, right after Mousesports, I went back to the core of what later become on of Godsend and FPX.
Right.
That was like me, Madden, Devil Wolf was our coach. We had Michael on the team, Zen on the team, Farlig at some point. Like basically, we were just trying to scramble a team together. We were having no org at the first at beginning, but then later on we went into Godsend and then FPX, and then it was basically the whole COVID era. We're just playing from home, and yeah, then FPX kind of shut down the CS roster, and that's when I got an offer from Apex. First year was pretty lackluster and terrible. And then second year when Kicksan actually joined and Kuban was our head coach, that's when we went on to win a lot of things. We went to the semifinal of the major. And then after that major, we lost JL, and then it kind of went downhill again. So, yeah.
Oh, that's kind of what I remember. Is like I forgot about the Godsent era kind of time, because I think that was when I was having my eye surgery and stuff. I wasn't like super involved. And then when you joined Apex, that was kind of like you said. It was like you're kind of like there for a bit, and then it's almost like you peaked at like a pretty good time. It felt like. Did you guys put in like a lot of work? Did Cuban like what was the reason that you guys were able to make like the semifinals of a major? Was it just like, did your players just kind of like perform really well for a couple months and you guys kind of like overperformed? Was it like, you know, Cuban helping with strats? Was it just like a, you know, a general effort from everyone?
Yeah, I think we definitely had some kind of weird style of play on T side where we were just trying to basically split across the map and just pounce our way and win one-on-one duels. Like everyone is trying to play at the same time, and then one extremity plays later on different extremity plays. Like it was something like that on a lot of maps, and it's just a style that was pretty annoying to play against. And honestly, the reason why we went into semifinal, I feel like, was because we overperformed a little bit, and we played kind of like correct enemies at the correct time of the tournament. So the bracket was pretty fortunate for us, I believe, throughout the whole process of the major. And I feel like a lot of teams were just straight up underperforming. Like it was pretty bad. Like when I look at Heroic and drawing Gamer Legion in the semifinal of the major, and then Heroic loses, like at that point, what can you even say? You know?
I do. Yeah, that is true. That's a good point.
Then you have like 5 out of 8 teams in the major playoffs were kind of like tier 2 teams. We had Monte, Gamer Legion, Apex, Into the Breach, and someone else. I can't remember who was. Like, dude, everyone was playing so bad CS back then. G2 didn't even qualify. I'm not sure about FaZe. I think they bombed out or something. It was just, honestly, everyone was playing pretty bad CS. Maybe the pressure got to the big stars because last CSGO major, and people really wanted that major. But in the end, you know, ZywOo took it.
Yeah, that's true. I do remember that was the big G2 flop. That was definitely like the like everyone's like, oh my god, they went out in groups. But like it's not that like obviously G2 shouldn't, but it's not that hard to go out in groups in a major. Like if you just have a bad day, bad performance on a weekend, everyone's trying so hard, and I do feel like every time I've gone to a major, I don't know if you felt this, I always felt like it was a little bit easier to play versus the hyper aggressive players and the really good mechanically gifted players. That I felt like they were more nervous. It almost felt like there's like a stigma on a major. So if I played more aggressive, it's almost like people didn't expect it. Like they were like they were expecting everyone to kind of play like tense, and I would just like kind of like play loose, a little bit looser, and I always felt like it benefited me in majors because everyone was playing so like rigid. Did you ever feel like that in a major where like you felt like the play styles are a little different than if it was just like a blast event?
Yeah, I think people in major, or like throughout the actual competition of the major, they overthink it a little bit, and people will be like, all right, we got really deep into the major playing this style, but it becomes readable. Let's change the style a little bit, just tweak it a little bit. And then a little bit of a tweak is actually causing a lot of disruptions because it's something that people were maybe uncomfortable practicing or never practicing before. And they think on the paper it's just a minor change, but it's such a big change that someone feels a little bit less comfortable, and having one off game in the major, you can be abused and you will lose that map or that game and you might go home. So I think people definitely keep overthinking as they progress deeper into the tournament, and especially major, when it's not like you win 4 best of 3s and you're in the final or something. It's pretty a long tournament. It takes 2 weeks. With the qualification process, it takes even more. So there's a lot of grind prior to the major, and there's a lot of data that people can anti-strat you on. So people keep overthinking pistols, forces. They overthink like any data analysis that things might happen, because every analyst is basically putting 110% effort into anti-stratting, of course,
Yeah.
because this means a lot for the club, for the team, for himself, etc., etc. So yeah, I think the playstyle change is a kind of blessing in disguise. I mean, or like curse in a disguise, or so to
Yeah.
speak. Where those who can't adapt, don't force them to adapt. Like I believe Kerrigan has this saying that whenever they come to an event, they like barely practice something new. They don't have like a theory session,
Yeah.
of something new. They already come prepared to an event. They don't use time at an event to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. And I'm not sure if this is still true. This is just what I heard. But basically, when they're at the event, they're making sure that individuals are on point. So individual routines are met. People sleep well, people eat well, and basically people are ready to perform, because practice and preparation for the tournament is always done before the tournament starts.
100% agree. That was always my philosophy of like, you should be ready before the event, right? Like all your strats should be hammered out, all your setups, like everything. Sure, you can talk about some anti-strats that you might do on the fly. Like okay, these guys are playing one banana on Inferno and playing 4A every round. What are we gonna do to counter that? Like there's always like things you can talk to that you're gonna have to adapt for, like in a match setting. But I do 100% agree. It's like you're not making much progress in a day and a half by like revamping your map, right? Like you're probably only hurting yourself. I think any person listening that's been on a team that's like dry ran a new like nuke upper execute or something, you fail a lot in practice the first time you do it, right?
Yeah.
Like in theory, it's like, okay, we just throw these nades, we dry run it 100 times, we have everything set. Then you go, oh, this guy pushed hut with a mag. Okay. Well, it's just one off, and then you try it again, and like, okay, the guy just pushed me hut again. Okay, we gotta be careful. Apparently, the new meta is like people pushing hut when the execute comes in. Like, just an example, right? Like, so you always have to like adapt or like change something like minor. And if the first time you're doing something is in a match, I just find like there's more probability it's gonna go wrong than right. Other than I say like direct counters, like if you just like are creating like a random gimmick strat. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And you mentioned like eating healthy at events, like Kerrigan, having the players on point. You've someone that's always been kind of like taking your health a little more serious. Did you always do that in the past? Was that something that you focused on more? And how do you think teams should be doing that? Because as a coach of a tier T team, it feels like it's really hard to I don't ever try to force someone to change their diet. I'm only here if they want help. So if they want to come to me and be like, yo, what vitamin should I take? What would be good to eat pre-workout or pre-match or something? I'll tell them what I think is good or what they should try. But I find a lot of people, especially younger players, just don't care at all.
Yeah. Well, this is great question because in Apex, for example, we were always really strict about these kind of things. We were
really?
always trying to eat really healthy. We were always avoiding fast food, whether it be at the boot camp, and we spent a lot of time during the year at the boot camp. We had like a private chef that was always making food for us at a certain times, twice a day, breakfast at the hotel, making sure that we don't eat any like energy drinks past certain time, etc., etc. Like at least I was like that. And what we were not forcing people to do is to go to the gym, because that is, I don't know. Personally, I would like to be on a team that is kind of enforcing a team gym session. I don't mind it at all, but at the same time, I understood that some of the teammates were just never really doing it, and they would not even enjoy it. Like the activities there, they would just not enjoy it at all. So in my opinion, I would like to be on a team where this is enforced, when this is as professional as possible, and I'm completely sold on it. Like I know how it helps in real sports for athletes to keep things of this, but I'm the guy that reads the book about this, because it interests me, and then I make a video of what I learned in a book. I want to share it, but I understand minority here, and I think even through my content creation, if I'm impacting or changing the view of one professional player or semi-professional player or someone who is aspiring to be a pro player, I think that's already worth it. Because I think in the end of the day, having good health habits or having good sleep hygiene, etc., like it will maybe give you, when it comes to like real value, I think it will maybe give you a kill extra during the whole tournament. I don't know how to quantify this, but that one kill to me is already worth it. Like I would do anything to get that one kill and make sure that everything is on point. And if that works for the next event, I'm going to look for optimization of that to get 2 extra kills. And, you know, I'm not a guy that is always going to, I'm not going to be next simple, but I'm looking at things that I see other people or other players do wrong. And I want to get like the marginal step ahead on that. And I see that people really, really struggle with mental preparation, mental struggles, health, food, diet, stuff like that. I want to read up about it. There's a lot of good books about it. There's good interviews, and there are data, first of all. But their data are coming from athletes, not really esports players. But if they are being helped by this, I'm pretty sure I can be helped as well.
100% agree. I do get your point of like not forcing people, because it gets hard, right? Because if someone really doesn't want to do it, are you going to like be making them just, you know, kind of like resentful and kind of annoying them? I do, like, of all the things you mentioned, I think people, if they're going to pick one, they should pick sleep. Like I think especially at events, I think like people, you've seen guys at the bar at 11, you know, p.m. having a drink, or like even guys in boot camp drinking Red Bulls at 10 p.m. and they play early in the next day, and I'm like, and you know, you get hit with the same stuff from I'm sure you heard it. Oh, it doesn't affect me. Oh, I'm fine. I'm like, yeah, but like you can't tell that you're getting poor REM sleep. Like that is just like, that's a fact of science, that if you drink, even if you're not drunk, it's negatively impacting your sleep hygiene, right? So. Yeah. I think a lot of times people are just kind of like in denial about it, and like for my main point of saying this is like, I kind of agree with you. Like in the short term, doing everything right is not gonna make you simple, right? Like it's gonna, but what it will do, I think the main benefit, especially of you know, eating healthy and working out, is like longevity of your career, right? Like, sure, maybe it's not winning you events and getting you, you know, like donk level stats. But if it's, you know, if it's extending your career from you retiring at 27 to 30, that's 3 years that you just made money and were able to compete and everything. And I think,
yeah,
I definitely think there's something to it, because like you probably notice when you work out, like your reaction time stays a little bit better, you feel a little bit better, your blood pressure is lower, like your body just, a healthy body is always going to perform better than an unhealthy body.
Will.
Like
I personally noticed that doing a workout at the day where I want to perform is not a good thing, because especially when I do like arm lifting kind of thing, heavy weights, like, dude, I can't aim for shit. Like I might as well just play Minesweepers that day, because I can't do anything else. Like it's so bad. But that's why I prioritize these kind of heavy lifts trainings on days off, or when I generally don't really need to perform per se. So let's say we just have a practice then, and I see opponents and they're just not really that great. That's when I would opt for that. And you know, that's what I found works for myself. For example, eating 1 hour heavy meal before I have to play an official is going to make me play like a bot first map. Like I can't do it. And this is what I noticed when I was like 22 years old.
Yeah.
And some people cannot recognize this throughout their whole career, because they don't simply take in that data. Like they don't pay attention to this at all. And it's such an obvious thing and simple thing to see. Just have to focus on it. And having organization that is kind of forcing you to do these things, to just note things down and spot the pattern yourself, I think that is extremely valuable for you as a player and as a human being. Because as you said, getting that lack of REM sleep, or like not getting that REM sleep, is going to make you eventually a little bit more grumpier next day. And then it's a teammate that is going to lash out at you for mistiming a flash, like small thing in practice that didn't even cost him a life. But that's when he lost the patience, because, well, maybe it was attributed to bad sleep, because he slept only 5 hours that day, because he couldn't fall asleep because he was scrolling TikTok until 3 a.m. You know?
Yeah.
And like people that are listening to this might be saying like, who the hell does that? Like professional gamers. I'm telling you,
Oh.
like wild percentage of players. I'm not going to say majority because I don't have these percentages, but I've played with teammates that are just like this,
There's
and
usually one per team.
yeah, it's on average one per team in my opinion.
Yeah. I find it funny too because I also noticed there's a trend of, and I don't blame them for this, but it's like you've been kind of like a nerd your whole life. You're grinding, you're grinding, you're grinding. Oh, now you're on Liquid, or now you're on whatever. Now you have attention from girls, you have more money, and I noticed they'll start like texting people longer. They might have like a long distance relationship where someone lives in another country and they stay late to talk to them. And I would have to tell my team, it's like, you need to go to sleep. Like, and, but like it's really hard to convey those things just because kind of like what you're saying about like doing a disservice to yourself by like not taking care of your health. It's like it doesn't even matter if you care about your health. You care about being good at Counter-Strike, right? So like that should supersede everything. And like you think like these NBA players and NFL players want to wake up at 5 a.m. and do no, of course not. But they want to win. They want to be the best. So the people that do the best generally put in the most work. And that goes with stuff outside the game. But I guess my main point is kind of like I think what you're saying about like testing things is like undervalued by people. You don't have to be perfect, but like try eating your normal McDonald's meal for 2 days before your game, and then try eating 2 or 3 days of a healthy meal before your game, and then try 2 or 3 days of eating nothing before your game, and just kind of like think, did I play better or worse? You know, like,
Yeah.
and try to just see, because like there's not really a right answer. Like not everyone needs to eat a big or a small meal. Like I can't come and tell you how you're gonna feel. Like right? Like I might have all this knowledge or whatever, but like I don't know your body. Some people, I had teammates that would not eat anything until after the match. They swore by it. They swore, I don't want to eat anything. I want to be in a fasted state. I had my one teammate said it put him in a survival state, so he was
Yeah.
faster. I was like, hey man, like if you think it works, I mean, if you believe it's helping you, that will also help you as well. Which you'll forget, like placebo is still in effect, right? So that's kind of why delusional players are kind of good, because they don't know what they're doing is
Yeah.
wrong, but they believe in it at like 110%. So yeah,
Yeah.
100% agree with you. I think we're gonna see more of a shift in the future with like more. Liquid has like the mind body guys who are great, and like like different teams have more resources now with like performance coaches. Like general coaches, analysts, like second coaches. Like the bigger orgs, obviously, the smaller ones are a little tougher. But I guess going back to your team, so you went to Apex, you got semifinals at a major. Then after that, what am I remembering incorrectly? Did you leave or
Yeah, I was
Apex,
benched for like 3 to 4 months.
and then you came back, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So this
Yeah.
is the thing. Don't replace STYKO because he's gonna come back. It's only a
Yeah.
matter of time.
Eventually.
um,
I think it was pretty hectic period, and I think the bench was justified. But I also think that bench was actually what I needed a lot to make sure I come back fresh, and the break helped me perform probably the best Counter-Strike I've ever played, and eventually made it to first CS2 major as well. So we were kind of playing terrible. We would never be able to qualify for the major with that kind of performance. I got benched. Eventually, Kicksan bowled out from to heroic. I came back in his replacement, and then with Sense, guy who never IGL'd tier 1 team before, we went into the Copenhagen major. Yeah, where we bumped out, but the point was we got there.
no, it's really hard to get to a major. It's not easy. So that's still super impressive, even if you bomb out, which you don't want to, obviously. But I mean, just making a major in itself is an awesome experience. Especially, you're probably playing with some newer players that hadn't like ever been to a major, which is like a big thing for a lot of those
Yeah.
guys. Do you ever feel like, because I'm going to classify you as kind of like a more of a support player, I guess you could say, like on a lot of your teams. With Mouse Sports, you're kind of like you and Rops are the pass. I don't want to say support, like more of a passive anchor player. You're
Yeah.
going to be like kind of buffing the team a bit. You're not the entry fragger that's like flying around trying to get opening frags.
I'm only entry fragger with Glocks and Tech 9s when no one else wants to do it, you know?
Yeah, that's true. People all of a sudden become very afraid on certain rounds. But do you ever feel like, I'll use an example. When MIBR was kind of falling from grace and they were the best team and they were kind of like slowly getting worse, they cut Taco, right? And then they get a new player in. They don't get any better. They get Bolt, right? Like, it doesn't really fix your problem. In my opinion, the team never got worse because of Taco. Taco was never the one ever fragging for them. It was because coldzera and Fur slowly were falling off. Like, Fur wasn't having as much impact with his aggressive plays. Cold wasn't playing quite as good as he once was. Fallen's op is maybe down 10%. It's a factor of like the top fraggers, in my opinion, at least in this case, of why they were kind of falling a little bit in the rankings. And I feel like a lot of times the passive player gets scapegoated. And they're just like, well, we need more firepower, so cut this guy and get a better player. And it's like, if you looked at his stats the whole time of his career, it's not like he ever was carrying them. Like, he was always just helping them, kind of doing the right thing. Because you played on a team with no good support player before, it's awful. Like, there's no one throwing proper nades, there's no one dropping guns. Yes. Like, it's very, like, there is a value to someone that's going to be, like, holding the flank every time and just, like, making sure that certain things are being done. And I think sometimes top fraggers don't really see these little things being done. Do you ever think that's like the case with some of these teams, or maybe even yourself? Like, have you ever thought that?
Yeah, 100%. It even happened on the Apex. So I'll give you like real first-hand impression and example of what happened in Apex. Is that I was doing a lot of work that no one really wanted to do it. For example, we came into with a strat and we just saw insane strat, and we wanted to straight up copy it and then play it a couple of times before we adjust it to our style and see how it goes. And then in that strat, there's a specific role no one ever wants to do. I'm gonna give you an example on Nuke. Like, you're gonna have to run out hot on that execute. And dude, like, what the hell are you gonna clear? You know, coming out of hot. Like, you get to pick one spot out of 7 spots and hope that you pick the right one. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say no one ever wants to do it, and I'm like, guys, like, let's speak up. Let's pick the roles. We're going to do it. And yeah, no one is picking this one. I'm going to do it. I don't care. Personally, I don't care. For me, the round, if we win that round, that is all that is there to me. I believe I've played on every team I've ever played. There was someone who was thinking about himself more as an actual success of the team, and they were, in my opinion, much more selfish when it comes to how the game is to be played. Basically, there was very little like selflessness and sacrifice going on, and in every team there was like a player or 2, sometimes 3, that did this, and it kind of showed the team dynamics. Like, it kind of happened. And you could be telling, like, yo, you need to do this, 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 and this. And they were like, yeah, I agree. But it never kind of happens in the, ever again.
Yeah.
So it's hard to come up with this kind of conclusion. And I was always like, for me, getting a round or winning that round is just #1 thing for me.
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah, that's why I think playing on a team where there's no one like that is incredibly hard. But on the other hand, playing on a team where everyone is willing to sacrifice, that's what makes that team a championship performance team, in my opinion. And it's sad to say that in 9 years of playing Counter-Strike professionally, I was not yet part of such team, in my opinion.
No, I feel like a lot of people probably feel that way in their careers of like, I mean, even Astralis, a team that was relatively like pretty selfless in roles, Device was probably still a little bit, not going to go first in certain situations. I feel like I think you can always have the one guy that's like a little selfish and you're kind of like superstar.
Okay, you can have like a star mentality on one guy, which is helping you to push, being that X factor. So, for example, but there's always like sacrifices to be made. For example, that person would at least, give up a P250 on a pistol round. For the selfless player, to play that kind of round to the maximum potential, being able to carry that round at least, because in pistol rounds, roles don't matter. Like you cannot prove me otherwise right now. Roles don't matter in pistol rounds. Everyone should be able to do everything, because in pistol rounds the variance is so little that all you have to do pretty much is run and shoot, or throw a couple of nades and run and shoot.
Yeah.
All there is. So at least in pistol round, enable the player who is kind of passive throughout the whole match. So during that round, he gets to shine. That's one thing. Another thing could be that, okay, if you force this kind of selfless player to play Mac 10 on the second round, for the love of God, if CTs are playing USPs, let the man farm. Like, it's not actually about just stat betting, it's economy. Like, those $900 from Mac 10 kill, and if you get 2 of them, is actually going to be incredibly impactful in the long run. But people see the guy, and they just kill him with a Glock or AK or Galil. And they're like, okay, nice, GG. Like, it's good round. Like, let's play next one. And you're stuck with that Mac 10, and you can't even buy proper weapon because you didn't get the injection beforehand. And, like, this was something that was actually tilting to me at some point in the teams, where I tried to, like, fight for it in the practice, but it never really worked. Like,
yeah. Because people want their ecos. They want their ecos.
Yeah, like, people are focused on their stats so much. And when I see this in the pro games right now, Spirit is pretty good at it. For example, if Magix or Chopper is having map MP9, like, Donk actually starts falling back in the full eco rounds. Like, okay, they get a kill or 2 entries to kind of feel out the round if they both or they had eco. And if they have eco, people actually start falling back. And this is how you should play Counter-Strike, in my opinion. To maximize everything, squeeze maximum out of, or like squeeze water out of stone, so to speak. Even of a bad situation, you need to get maximum. Otherwise, it will not snowball in your way. And if you're not snowballing in Counter-Strike, you're putting yourself deliberately in a position that is less likely for you to win the game. And that is, to me, self-sabotage.
Yeah, I mean, you see it all the time when an Opper has an MP9 or Mac 10, and the rifler just runs up and gets 4, and you're like, well, you could have just let the Opper with the Mac go in and farm, because that's going to help his economy so much. He can op up early. It also depends on your team, right? Like, if you have Monte on your team and you're not trying to get an op in his hands ASAP, you're kind of stupid, you know, versus, you know, maybe you have, like, more of a supporty, you know, op that doesn't need it as much. But, no, 100%. I think maybe it's, like, a slightly culture / age thing, but I find that it's really difficult to get 5 players that, like, really are completely selfish. Like, people really want, like, even if they don't admit it, like, in their mind they want good stats. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more players than people want to admit that, like, play a little bit for stats, even in pro games. You know, like, you can see it. And it's just like,
yeah,
I'm not sure if that will ever go away, but
I agree. But I think those people are putting themselves at the like, they're giving themselves less chance to be actually a championship winning team, in my opinion. Being a player like that, or having more than one player like that on a team, I think there's, like, diminishing return of that.
Yeah, well, a good example is, like, let's say you what's a good map? Say it's Dust 2. And you go B on an eco, you plant the bomb. They're all the CT stack day. You'll have people, like, one guy rushed lower B, one guy go T spawn. It's like, if everyone just exits the same way, you know, save your guns, make sure that they can't get any guns from you. Like, that's the smart way to play. But oftentimes people kind of, like, don't take it as serious in practice. Oh, it's just a scrim, and they just, like, run out the, you know, the Dust 2 window, and they just start farming.
Yeah.
You know, like, everyone's seen that. Or the guy just peeks the window, you know.
That's why I was always like that in scrims. Like, I want actually people to point out this mistake. Yeah, we won the round. No one died, but the way we exited the site that was already a 1 round, I actually want to talk about it.
Yeah,
I actually really want to deep dive into it, because in my opinion, this differs. Like, this is the difference between a good team and a great team. Like, what's the word? Like, when, oh my god, the word is just at the tip of my tongue. Not confidence, but
like consistent, or
Dude, it will come back. But basically, when you're playing as safe as possible, when you're like disciplined, of course, yeah, discipline. When you're as disciplined as possible, that's the biggest difference. Or like when you look at the aim, like tier 2 and tier 1 is pretty similar. When you look at the strats, it's a little bit bigger gap there. But if you look at the discipline, I think that's the quality that tier 2 level teams are here and tier 1 are here.
Yeah.
Discipline is the key, in my opinion, key factor. And how disciplined you are in practice, the same discipline will appear in the official game. And that is, to me, like, if I ever want to have a coach that is sitting and I'm being IGL of a team, I want that coach to actually keep track of things during the practice that could have been more disciplined. Like, just note down the round and we're going to rewatch that. I think this could have been more disciplined. Let's talk about it after a game. And after the game, we realized, yes, this could have been, or no, this couldn't have been. And at least there's a discussion going on. And yeah, as I said, discipline is a big thing, big factor.
I agree. And like, even like, look at CS2. Like, look at how many games go to overtime, or like 13-11. You know, now imagine that you died on four less people died on eco rounds. You know, and like, you saved an op one round instead of hunting a Glock and die. You know what I mean? Like, you take a couple things and it can really give you an extra gun round or two. And people don't really like. I get it. Like, you come from a pugger mentality and like you don't really care, right? Like, it's like you're playing a pug, you just want to get your frags. And I think maybe the pugging systems kind of like reinforce that behavior. Like, I'm not entirely sure on the data of that, but I feel like playing smart in pugs doesn't really get you noticed as much.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, like, if you're the guy on nuke throwing nades outside and you flash your teammates out, they get frags, and then you hold the lobby push, and then you, like, go save T-spawn, like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
And I definitely think it kind of sucks.
I'm gonna say discipline Counter-Strike is a boring Counter-Strike to play.
Yeah.
It's extremely boring. But I still stand by my word. Like, discipline is the way to improve. When you're trying to break through to the next tier or next level of any kind, I think that is the quality you should be focusing on the most. If someone is watching here and trying to struggle to level up their game during the team sessions, honestly, don't think about communication. Don't think about nades or strats or defaulting. If you're going to talk about this discipline, I think all things will kind of start elevating as a result of being disciplined. And yeah, it's going to be boring Counter-Strike, but you're going to win a lot. I love playing that kind of Counter-Strike or that kind of way. When you're suffocating the opponents out of options. Like, imagine, like, you're not giving an edge to anyone. Like, they literally cannot find a kill. They are looking for it, but they can't find it because you're always in, like, some OP position or a crossfire that is just impossible. Imagine how frustrating it will be for that person. And frustrating person to play against is an easy opponent in my mind. He will do tons of mistakes, communication issues arise. He will just not feel well. He will force an issue and try to force the fights and dumb fights oftentimes. Like, playing against frustrated opponent is the best way. Like, you love it when people chat shit, you know, in the chat when you're beating them. Like, it's the best way. It's the best feeling because you're clearly like in their head.
Yeah.
And playing that way, enabling this, I think it's, you know, it makes me smile. I want to do that. I kind of want to jump back into the server and kind of do that.
You know, it's actually funny because back when Liquid was in their Nitro prime, you know, where they're doing all the with Twist, NAF, and everyone Unleash, I was an opera this time, and they were so hard to find a kill. I could, like, run off Dust 2 Cat, jump onto the Xbox. I could search, and, like, they're just throwing, like, little jiggles at me. Like, nobody ever commits. They only peek me with a flash or they smoked me off. I literally would just get, like, I would always get pushed back. Like, it didn't matter how crazy I went to get a kill. They were always, like, playing the situation so perfectly. So I used to just start rifling versus them because I was like, whatever. They're not giving me shots anyways. And, like, that was, like, the meta where, you know, when you got up cat, you throw the full execute with, like, the 2 smokes, the mollies on the ramp and the site. And, like, as an opera, you're getting chain flashed by, like, a really good, well spaced out flash attack off cat is really hard as an opera because you're constantly... I mean, I know Zywoo and Simple sometimes find the little gaps, but, like, if you're not next level good, it's, like, really hard. And I just remember getting so frustrated. So, like, it's definitely true where if you can frustrate your opponents, like you said, they're going to make more mistakes. They might even switch, like I did, like just being like, "Well, screw this. I'm just going to rifle." like,
Yeah, and the Ruiz whole dynamic of the team as well. Like your
yeah.
teammates must have been like, "Yo, Corey, like what the hell are you doing? Like, please hope. Like you're the opener of the team.
Well, I actually talked. I actually
You're playing
did.
Dust 2 with 5 M4s. Like, what are we doing? Like,
I
please
actually
hope."
talked to them about it. I was like, "Yo, guys, like, should I try rifling versus them?" They're like, "Yeah, dude, just try it." And like, it wasn't like I just did it like out of nowhere because
Yeah.
I was always someone that would calm what I'm doing. You know, like if I'm going for a long pick or I'm going lower B, I'd always be like, "Yo, I'm going lower B." You know, like even if it's like stupid, I always tell people at least they can call it off. Or I also think like just as a side note rant thing is if you're going to do a play, if you calm it, then your teammates can play off of your play. Like when you just go and run out somewhere and then die, like I don't know that you were going to do that. So then I can't like capitalize off of like the chaos you made. That's kind of why I felt like Prime Fnatic was so good with JW and Olaf is because they'd be making crazy like chaos around the map and then Crims and like Pronax and Flusha were just kind of like walking around, like big free entry into sites because there's just shit going on everywhere. And yeah, I definitely think like you can play off chaos, but it kind of it doesn't have to be planned, but it's got to be, you got to know what's kind of going on.
Oh yeah.
Now you went from Apex, the major, then you went to Monte.
Yeah, just briefly, recently. It was just 3 months there. I was there for 3 months, but in reality, it was more like a month and a half because after the summer break, I wasn't even practicing with the team anymore because I knew that they were getting like a Polish core, Polish team or Polish speaking team, and I can't speak Polish. And I said, okay, yeah, I agree. Like I didn't really feel good in that team, so I was contemplating if I should, bench myself. But my contract was kind of short term with them. And I said, yeah, good luck with your project. And they asked me, because of roster locks, I actually had to finish a couple of tournaments with them. So that's the only thing I was really playing with them. I was not even practicing. They were practicing with Polish players, speaking Polish. For officials, I just joined in. They showed me 3 strats that were running this game or 3 defaults that were running that game, put me in the new roles, and I tried to play my best. Sometimes we lost, sometimes we won. Doesn't really matter. We were trying to take deep runs. And in the end, the RMR came. I signed up with the roster, but they immediately subbed me out for the Polish player K to come in. So I wasn't even part of the major thing. And unfortunately, they didn't qualify in the end. But I think they're a good team. I think they're going to play well. But I don't have anything to say about Monte. I already did a video about it. And it was just so brief period that it just wasn't right thing to do for me. I immediately went from Apex to Monte, from one slumping team to another slumping team. And right now it's taking its toll on me mentally. So I'm trying to just reset. I'm trying to explore new things, having fun, doing podcasts like this one, talking to people. I'm going to try doing an analyst job at Blast. And
nice. That
just trying to, just trying to enjoy life without being forced to practice daily, because that is actually one of the things where being Counter-Strike pro player is really great thing, but that practice schedule every day to be 8-9 hours with the team. On top of that, if you don't play well, you obviously want to play individually because, well, you sucked today, so you want to up the hours, play face it or individual deathmatch, whatever. And damn, that's rough to do it 6 times a week. And then you have to travel to an event where you're going to bomb out and it feels like nothing is working. Mentally, it plays tricks with you,
No, I definitely think if anyone's ever been on a roster you don't believe in where you lose a lot, you eventually almost like start mentally checking out because, like you said, it's just like you feel like you're putting in all this effort and you kind of know in the back of your head that it's not going to pay off. Like I know I know you're not supposed to think that, but I think if you played on Mouse Sports or I played on Cloud9 and you played on these Apex, sometimes you join a roster and you kind of know, like you kind of know, like, this team has a cap of, here and I want to be here. So you got some analyst job, which is awesome. That's always fun to watch. I think you're like an awesome person with like good insight into the game with a good head on your shoulders. So I'm excited to see you do that. And
Thank
you
you.
said you're doing other videos. You do some content on your YouTube. Is there a direction you would still like to go in Counter-Strike? Are you still not done playing for your pro career? Like, are you still wanting to potentially win a major? You know how like Zeus said, like I want to win a major before I quit. Like, is there anything, or would you take a full-time analyst role now that Maniac his spot is open?
Okay. I didn't take over Maniac's spot.
I'm just kidding.
He was supposed to be my colleague at this event, I think. I'm not sure. But then this happened. So
Yeah.
I think someone else slotted in. So it's not me stealing his job. It's
someone
fine.
else. All right.
No, it's fine. Well, for my goals personally, I still didn't retire. Like, I want to try be professional player. And these quantifiable goals of winning a major or winning an S tier championship, I don't like putting these goals in my head. What I want to do as a starter is something that we've discussed throughout the whole podcast. Like, I want to be on a team where I feel comfortable, where I feel respected, listened to, where I feel like we're on the same vibe and we're having kind of a common goal of becoming the best team possible, not best individual possible. Being on that team will make me truly, truly happy, and I think we can be really good in the long run. And right now, I think only teams with such mentality are truly the tier 1 teams. So from international POV, it could be teams like Heroic, Liquid, I don't know, Ents are kind of struggling right now, but these kind of tier 1 organizations. And I'm not sure if I'm really like hot prospect for these kind of organizations. I would love to be part of it, but I understand that there might just not be a spot for me, all things considered. And yeah, I'm not sure what will happen. I will definitely search for something for 2025 because I would love to still compete and play. And I'm not thinking of taking a analyst role full time. I'm just doing it because I have a little bit more free time and I like to experience new things while I can. Maybe I will love it and I will immediately after the event say, okay, I'm an analyst from now on. Like, guys,
Right.
I'm retiring. But I don't think that will happen because my goal is eventually to be on a team where I really, really feel comfortable. And sucks to say, I haven't been on one. I mean, I was happy, obviously, on teams when we were winning, but the atmosphere of the team is, to me,
You
critical.
never felt like
I learned this.
People didn't have the same goals as you on your team, right?
I think so. I think so.
No,
there were like
get that.
distractions which were people's ego got kind of in a way. And sometimes it was me, maybe. Sometimes maybe I'm delusional. Maybe it's impossible to find such team. But I have to try at least,
No, that's fair. I mean, trust me, I know other pros that have complained to me. I'm not going to throw anyone's name under the bus in case they don't want that out there. But like, I've been messaged by multiple different ones of my friends with similar complaints before, being like, I don't know how to play with these guys. Like, two of them just like they just don't care, or like not that they don't care, but kind of what you're saying is like they might not believe in like demo review. Like, I've literally heard of a guy being like, yeah, he just refused to do demo review and left TeamSpeak. Like, and I'm just like, like, that's hard for me because I would never do that as a pro. Like I would never.
If you're around people that care less than you, you naturally start to care less as well.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're being like downplayed for your efforts, and it's the same with everything you do in the team. Like, if one guy is slacking or starts slacking in any activity that is supposed to be done, it will like snowball and spread like an infection amongst the teammates. They will become less productive in that activity, and then it will snowball into another activity. Like, people don't want to demo review, people don't want to warm up together on the deathmatch. It was a rule. We are always deathmatching 5 people on the same deathmatch and having like talking throughout. Like, after 1 week, there's only 4 players. After next week, there's only 3 players, and then eventually there's no one. And things like this, like people. I'm a pretty productive guy. I'm trying to maximize everything I can in order to improve. But if people around me are not putting same effort in, I'm naturally becoming a version of myself that I hate more and more because I'm less productive as well. Because I'm being like pulled down and it kind of spreads, Like, there's a saying that you're an average of 5 closest people that you know. You're an average person of those 5 people. And in a world of Counter-Strike, those 5 people are your teammates, or like 4 teammates and a coach, because you literally spend with those people virtually the most hours out of anyone. Maybe there's like a girlfriend or a wife if you live with her, but other than that, it's your teammates. And if they drag you down, I don't think that's a good environment for you to be in.
No, I think what happens is people get stuck, right? Like they can't leave the team because it's the best team they can join, but then they're frustrated
Yeah.
with the team, and then it causes like this resentment issue. But you're 100% right. I think it even happens in relationships. You know, like if the boyfriend cares more than the girlfriend by like a lot, like it just makes everything suck, right? Like there's got to be some like it's got to be equal, right? At least for the most part. I mean, there was a time when, I was in 1.6 and Sean was in school and working, and I was just a nerd with no life, playing Counter-Strike, wanting to be pro. And I would do a lot of the strat ripping. Like, I'd bring strats and setups, but I never resented it for him because I knew he was busy. Like, I knew
Yeah.
like he had a reason, like, why he couldn't do those things. But if I was playing with Sean and he didn't have any of those responsibilities as a caller and he never does anything and I'm doing anything, then I'll start getting frustrated and being like, dude, like, what the hell? Like, like, why are you the caller and you're not even doing, your job? That was a long time ago, but obviously, like, now people get salaried and that's not usually as much an issue. But before I was going to ask you, would you be willing to move to NA for a team, or are you going to kind of want to stay in Europe? Because you do speak English.
Yeah. Well, great question. Like, honestly, I'm not even sure. Like, I'm not tied to anything here. I mean, I have a girlfriend, but she's not tied to anything here. I mean, school can be done online right now,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really matter. So offers, I'm not geo speaking, like on the world level. Geographically, that's the word that I'm looking for. I'm not like tied down to any place, and I think that's completely fine with me. After all, it's where I feel the best and what I believe in the most. And if that is somewhere outside the EU, I might as well just try my luck elsewhere.
Yeah, I was just curious because I do think like your mentality could help some of the teams here because I feel like they could use more of that like, let's make sure we're doing everything right in practice. Like I'm not saying all the teams in NA are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, but there are less of the properly kind of like there's less of people that are there's more younger players coming up now that let me rephrase that. Our tier 2 teams got gutted to Valorant. So it's almost like we had tier 1 and then we went down to tier 3 and like the tier 3 players are now our tier 2 players, and now they're trying to get to tier 1 and we kind of like lost some of like the more experienced players that were, had gone to DreamHacks and they had been around the circuit. So it's almost like you have like really rough around the edges players or like really established players. Like there's not like a middle at all.
Okay, so let me rephrase my answer as well then. If I'm going to NA for this kind of event, opportunity, it has to be something already established. Like
right.
I wouldn't probably want to build something from the ground up in a region that is like EU is superior to NA in a lot of things and in Counter-Strike especially. So if this is ever an opportunity to teach someone but not play on that team, I'm all down for it because I offer like individual coaching as well. I have a lot of clients, and ironically, majority of those clients, they always come from NA.
Oh, really?
And there's a lot of demo reviews I do specifically for Faceit players, and there's a lot of one-on-one talks that I offer as well. And we go over mental stuff, we go over routines, how to develop as a team, how to make it as a pro, stuff like that. And from the English, like I never ask people where they are from, but I kind of hear it in an accent that they're American and they're speaking better English than me. So there are definitely people that are willing to learn from me, and I can do that even from Europe. But to play on such team, I wouldn't probably consider it. No.
Sure, I didn't mean like you'd be like to remake a team. I more meant like when M80 is looking for a new player, Complexity is looking for a new player. They don't have a wide pool of people to pick from that are established. You know what I mean? So like, let's say they wanted to pick up someone for Mulbs, they had to get Lake, who's kind of like an up and coming player. Which obviously they
Yeah.
need the fragging power, but I more meant like I feel like you could potentially fit into one of these rosters, and I do consider them both like pretty good. Like you know like they're pretty up there in terms of like competitiveness. Anyways, that I'm not trying to force you to come to NA, but
No. But if you
yeah,
think about it, MAT team even is, two players are German, and
that is
a lot
true,
of
yeah.
times they are spending actually in Europe because of tournaments. And I do think that the pool of, or like quality of practice here is incredibly
Oh, it's so much
higher.
better.
And yeah, that's why I think like I would consider both of these teams, yes, because majority of the time they're anyway in EU. They're attending the best tournaments, EPL, DreamHacks, or I don't know what it's called right now, Challengers and stuff like that. They do get to these events, and to me that is the most important thing. Because if you get to these events, you don't want to bomb out last place. That's why it gives you like an extra motivation in practice to actually practice something.
Yeah,
You're not practicing for some stupid ESCA advanced game. That they're playing against people that are working, and then they hurry up home to play the game quickly without any warm up. Like I don't want to get back into that environment. I'm past that.
yeah,
And,
yeah. That's fair.
yeah.
So let's get into some questions because we're about an hour in. I know I don't want to keep you for too long. So obviously the first the first obvious question: CS:GO versus CS2. What pros, cons? What do you like? Do you like it or not?
Well, there's no lying that I feel like CS:GO is just better game, better state. It feels better. It feels more fun. It was just way more polished and way more optimized. CS2, the smoke change is amazing in my opinion. Also, the loadout is something I low-key like, but I would like it more if they added more weapons, so there's like more variance to it.
You want new weapons
but
in Counter-Strike, like extra guns added?
Yeah, because I think it's low-key like pointless to have a loadout slots for pistols, because there's no real reason to have like a dualies on T side, and then revolver is useless. So it's just, it doesn't make sense. Like it only makes sense for rifles, and that is if you're choosing M4, AUG, FAMAS, OP, or Scout, and which M4 it is. So loadout is something that I really like as well. Economy change, MR12 change, I think is terrible because, well, obvious reasons. Economy just doesn't play well with it. I'm thinking what else. I don't know.
Would you rather see MR15 back, or would you rather them have them modify the economy for MR12 to kind of make a bit more sense?
I would rather have MR15 back. Yeah.
Yeah, at a pro level, I always thought MR15 is just better. As a pug, I kind of am like, it's kind of nice for pugging. Like MR12 does speed up the games, right? So like if you just want to bang out a couple games before you go to bed, I do kind of like MR12 for that because I played Valorant for a little bit, and it was kind of nice, like how the games didn't feel quite as long. But that's more from like a casual perspective. But it doesn't feel like Valve really likes to like change pro and casual. Like they want them to be the same, which I get, but I really don't think it's that big of a deal. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. The state of the game in CS2 overall just feels bad. Like the fact with the cheaters, like I feel like people who play the game play it not because they have fun, but because they're good at it, and therefore they have fun. It's not like new people will come in on board. What are we going to play today, guys? Oh, yeah, let's play some CS2, right?
Yeah.
No one is going to say that because, well, there's a high chance you're going to run into a cheater or run into some kind of problem, or people are stopping to play the game because of performance issues over time. Like, I feel like that's the case of me. I'm not having fun by actually having fun. I'm having fun because I'm good at it, and I like analyzing, and I like different aspects of the game than casual player would.
No, that's fair. I mean, I will say CS2 looks much better. Like I find it with an eye problem, I like how it looks. I do think that's an improvement, at least for me specifically. Yeah, basically what you're saying is like I think pretty much agreed on. I think the game feels a little weird. The interp feels weird online. Sometimes it feels like I see someone's toe in deathmatch and I just instantaneously die, and I'm like, I literally couldn't. I have no chance there. So there's some things that just feel like very odd. and like not really polished. But again, that's kind of Valve's motto, right? They kind of just
Yeah.
do whatever they want. All right, this one's from Anders. What's the best analytic software?
It's funny that you said because it's from Anders, and I know that he has fingers in a skybox kind of thing, skybox edge or whatever it's called. I do think it's the best tool that I've ever used. I definitely didn't use all of them because, well, some of them are pretty expensive, and it depends what your kind of team gets as a deal. And in Apex, we use Skybox Edge, and that is pretty sweet. Like, I got used to it very quickly. There's a lot of useful information that I used as an individual player. So it's not even you anti-stratting enemy. It's you just looking how opponent at your part of the map plays. It's really easy to do so.
It's very fast too.
It's
Like
very fast.
we used it on Nouns too. It made demo review very easy too. Like after scrims and stuff.
Yeah, and you can pair it up with voice comms as well, I believe. I'm not sure how buggy is it still, but I think that's a great thing to do as well. What I dislike about it is though that if you upload your POV from the demo, you also see, even if it was scrim and it was just your POV, you also see enemies moving around. So basically,
Yeah.
you can scrim against Vitality. You're doing a strat and you like the reaction what they did against it, but you wouldn't know otherwise if you didn't have Skybox Edge. And then you upload your demo and you see exactly the dots of vitality of every round, and you see their reaction, what nades they threw, what positions they played, how they dodged the flash, etc., etc., etc. So all these kind of things, it's low-key like pay to win in tier 1 Counter-Strike.
Yeah. No, I know what you
get
mean.
Infinitely more data from scrims.
Because if you were to use a new strat or a new setup that was really good, then someone just loads their POV in Skybox, they have it. It is basically what you're saying, right? So it's like it's hard to hide stuff. Of course, everyone knows how to rush long on Dust 2. There's not a ton of new stuff, but like imagine you find some new sick flash that really just like ruins the CTs. You know, like now they have it in 1 second. So definitely agree. Like it would be nice if they had some sort of like sensor thing where it didn't show the Bozing team, but I'm sure that's something they try to sell as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very expensive for people that don't know. It's like €1,000 a month or more, depending on like what he said, like packages and stuff. But super useful. Definitely, if you have the funds and you're taking it serious, definitely worth it, I would say. Also, like you said, it's just quick. You don't have to open the game and like load in and like skip around the demos. Like you can literally just go there instantaneously. Okay, are there any NA prospects STYKO thinks the tier 1 scene should keep an eye on?
Dude,
he says NA, but let's go EU NA too if you have any.
That's a great question, honestly. I don't know what prospect means in the grand scheme of things. Is it someone who doesn't have a team and it's just grinding Faceit? I'm not really playing Faceit myself too much, so I can't really answer that. I'm obviously go and look at the leaderboards. That will give you a lot of information.
Maybe someone like Lake. He was on a kind of a lower level team, not just a Faceit player. Is there anyone like you see on like maybe a tier 2 team that could break into tier 1?
Yeah, I think. Well, obviously, I'm gonna just base it off the game I play. They play and what I see on the demos. I don't know about their personalities or their English, but my countryman, I think he's putting every time I see player of Unity, he's gonna be playing at Shanghai RMR, Mikey. Whenever I see the stats of the guy, I swear it's in the red. Like it's crazy how consistent he is. I mean, sorry, it's in the green. It's
consistently
good.
bad.
Like, yes,
just impressive.
I was just tripping out a little bit. So he's playing really well apparently, and he's really sharp. I'm not sure how his comms are or anything like that, so it's hard to see. And then PR he was playing on Mouse NXT for a long time. I think he's pretty young. I think he's 16 or 17 years old. He's from Czech Republic. So both of them are from my kind of region. So, that's what I follow mostly, when it comes to tier 2, 3, because, it's kind of close to my roots. So PR and Mikey.
All right. Have you scrimmed versus Spirit much?
Yes, yeah, not much, but I remember a couple of scrims. Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, because everyone always loves Donk, is he
Yeah.
as good as like obviously he's like insane, but like when you play versus him, does it look like his stats in the server? Like, do you feel like you have no chance, or is it just like I've heard some scrims from my friends that he's dropped like 40 and 5 on them on like Vertigo, just running up the ramp, literally just death matching them all, and they had no chance. Was it like
Yeah.
that, or?
I think, I think it depends who Team Spirit are playing against, and they're choosing like a style what they want to do. So if they were in an A, for example, and they were screaming against just lower tier position, I think they might as well just run up and try to get some confidence and just deathmatch their way through the scrim. But I think in the EU, especially against us, I think Donk is like a little bit chained in my opinion when it comes to practice. Like
Right.
it's not like he's bad or anything. Like obviously he's insane stats at the end of the scrim. Like he's just good. He's winning duels. He's at the right time, on the right place. However, he's not overcooking it. He's not like hunting, and maybe it feels to me like he's clearly trying to do something in these scrims. He's trying to play differently, play a little bit more reserved. Maybe he's actually practicing with intent. It's not like he's doing things in an official game every time and it works, and he just keeps doing it in a scrim as well. So yeah, and I think Twist said the same in recent Talking Counter podcast, where yeah, whenever they play against Donk, he just doesn't feel it when it comes to practice.
I mean, that's fair. I played some teammates who were fucking insane in matches, but in scrims, you never thought anything like that crazy. It was almost like they weren't trying as hard.
Yeah, they preserve energy.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right. Augustin asks, what are your favorite Slovak dishes, desserts to make or get?
Oh my god, I'm really bad at Slovak cuisine, honestly. Um, well, I gotta say, like probably like cheese, like fried cheese with French fries is. I don't know how common it is across the world, but that is kind of like specialty here. It's very easy to make, and it's something that I grew up on a lot. And I don't know,
I
it's
love
just the
cheese,
mayonnaise
so
with it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not grilled cheese, so it's a fried cheese, but it's really easy to make, and everyone loves it here, and it's kind of go-to meal no matter what the occasion. So
It sounds good, honestly. Difference between OG players and the new prodigies by now and now.
OG players and new prodigies.
So let's say maybe like simple versus or device versus donk. You know,
All
like
right.
do you think there's a difference in in anything, or is it just they're just younger?
Uh, I think they're much, quicker, sharper. I feel like the training tools as well got so much better right now that Donk basically is being like low-key boosted by all these things. In the world, I'm not saying Donk is doing this, but in a world where you have aim trainers and you have things like Skybox Edge from the get-go, like you can do that and load up a demo and see how someone plays. You have infinite amount of content over on YouTube already. You have already a coach, secondary coach, assistant coach, performance coach. You have boot camps all over the place. Like these things did not happen when device was Donk's age.
Yeah.
Things were really, really scuffed back then. But Donk is immediately put in a position which I agree, it's harder to play it from the get-go. There's no like a ramp up, like climbing the ladder and slowly getting into tier 1. Donk was put into tier 1 and he's doing well. That is beautiful, like respect. But us, for example, when we were becoming a pro players, we had to climb up a certain ladder, and all the changes that we were experiencing for the first time were more minor to what Donk had to experience. And that's why I think these young players are actually more adaptable. Like they're quick to learn. I would say quicker to learn than we were. Yeah. So, but I think they lack in social aspects because they all come from Face It, which is like pure puck fest and solo environment, and you don't get too much like pure LAN experiences where you get like what you had in the A, right? The SEA lands where you just go and shout. Philadelphia is right now probably the only thing that you can go to, and
Yeah.
Lounder's Land or something like that. So those things, I grew up on that, and you
Yeah.
too, you did
Yeah.
too. And right now, Donk's first tournament, land tournament in his life probably was like Katowice or something. Like it's crazy. I'm just making things up. I don't know
Yeah.
his backstory, but
I get
it's
your
just
point. There's not a local LAN scene anymore.
yeah.
People can sit in the room and kind of like make it to the top before they've ever really proven themselves. Where I feel like in our day and age, you had to prove yourself before you kind of got on a team, which made it more difficult. And honestly, something that I don't hear many people bring up, I don't know if you agree, is just like the peripherals too, man.
Oh yeah.
We got like super light mice now. We have wireless G Pros. Like the mouse hertz are 4,000. Like the monitor hertz are 240, 360, 540 now. Like, dude, back in the day, I went to a LAN, 75 hertz monitors at ESWC. Like, we're on 125 hertz mice. Like obviously it's just different, right? Like,
Internet is another thing. Like
yeah,
some of us were playing on 80 ping back in the day, and right now people, if they're playing on more than 20, they are requesting to change the server. Like this is too much.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. So the conditions are just better now, and like you said, you have like all these aim trainers, aim bots. Like there's all these like you can hire an aim coach now.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, no, 100% agree with you. I didn't think about all those things, but those are some good points for sure. Tannen says, what changes are needed to make CS great again? This could be from the actual game and or the esport.
honestly, this is small detail. I'm not gonna go into like bug fixes or anything.
Yeah.
But Valve need to start publicly communicate, in my opinion. I heard maybe they reach out to people like pro players or talent back in the like behind the curtains, but please put out a roadmap of where the game is going. Like by the end of 2024, we want to release an operation. In 2025, we want to have 2 majors. Yes, that's all we know basically. But where the game is actually going, how are we developing? How are we progressing forward? Like which changes do we want to maybe explore, maybe see, maybe changes to overtime, changes to economy, like all these kind of things, at least be transparent, I know that that would low-key put them in a position that, like if they don't meet these goals, they're going to have a hard time and they're going to get insane backlash, but at least be active with us. Like, guys, we're working on the game. We're not all moved to deadlock yet. There's still 2 of us working on the CS.
No, I agree. I've always thought my own opinion was they should hire an ex-pro, man. Like like Kerrigan retires, hire him. Like someone that's like knowledgeable that everyone in the scene respects. Like have them on retainer or something. Like get opinions before you pump out changes. You don't have to listen to them all. You don't have to. It's not like you have to listen to everything Kerrigan says, but getting some input, I think, would just open their eyes to some things that are very obvious when they implement aren't good. Like I think we've all used like the auto shotgun when they update it, and you could like shoot people down mid on Inferno and one shot them. Like if a pro played even 1 second with some of their updates, they would tell them immediately, this is broken, you can't release this, and then show them why. But they don't really do that. They just kind of like do their own thing, release it, and then kind of look at community feedback. And eventually we kind of get to where we want to go. It just takes a long time. And we don't always get there, but you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the good key point there.
I don't know how to answer this, if this is a good question, but Phobia asks, ways to support financially tier 2 orgs.
Hard for me to answer this.
Yeah,
I don't see. I'm not knowledgeable enough to make an even educated guess. Like, and maybe if I think hard and long enough, I will come up with some things. But right now, it's tough. Maybe pros should be more open to. I don't want to say content creation, because whenever I say that, they're going to be like, "Oh, you're telling me to stream or do like a tutorials on Mirage or something like that." No, but just like show some personality. Like at least when you tweet out after the game, at least make it that you are tweeting it, not your manager or agent or something like that.
16-6, they played good. GG.
Yeah. Like, even the interviews are like
Yeah.
I don't want to say force someone to make say something spicy, but like bring a character. Like
Yeah.
build your brand. Like don't ignore it, because in the long run you will regret it that in the 5 years of playing a Counter-Strike professionally, there's virtually no one that knows you other than the core fans of that team. They're not fan of you, they're fan of team. And that's the issue in my opinion.
All right. Delaray asks, cats or dogs or seals?
Okay, I have a dog, I have a puppy. I have to say dogs here.
Dogs.
I'm gonna say I think cats are low maintenance, which I like, but they don't like to cuddle, which I don't like.
Mine does.
And seals, I think I've seen one seal in my life. I'm gonna be honest. So.
Yeah, I don't think seals are up there. Vessi23 says, in the current state, how good do you need to get to be able to earn any money by competing?
It depends. In NA, you have to get very, very good, in my opinion. You have to be pretty much on a... I don't know what the levels are, but you have to be probably on a, like, what, top 15 team in America to
Yeah,
actually
even
get a
more,
salary.
probably. Probably, I mean... Yeah,
Top 10?
maybe top 10, and even then, it's not a lot for some of them.
Yeah, it's not maybe sustainable to become a full-time job. And just do the math. Top 10 means you have to be top 50 in your region.
Yeah.
To not even make it for the full-time as a player. In EU, it's a little bit different. You also have different opportunities. So you can just, I want to say you can grind FPL, but it's pretty hard to get into that. It's honestly really, really hard to make a living out of this. Just look at the HLTV ranking and click on random team in top 60. And there's a pretty good chance they're not salaried, actually.
Yeah. That's a good
So,
point. Yeah.
It's rough. It's rough.
Yeah, I think like the best way you could probably make money without being on like a top 10 team like in the region, like you're saying, is probably streaming. You know, like
Yeah.
And that's not even maybe based off your skill. Like it obviously helps to be good. Like if you're a top face it player, people will probably watch you just because you're fragging out. But having a little bit of a personality and being able to make jokes or at least showing them ways to improve definitely can make some money. But yeah, like you said, it's like it's like being a pro like baseball player or basketball player. Like it's probably unlikely. So I always tell people like stay in school, have your job, play CS a lot in your free time. If you're gonna be good, you'll kind of know. Like I don't know how you like. I know in Europe it's a little different. Sometimes people get like you're able to take time off and get some money from the government in countries to kind of like sustain yourself. Maybe not where you are, but I know some of my Finnish friends were like that. They could take some time off. I think if you can save up enough money, I always say like try to get as good as possible when you feel like you're on the brink of maybe getting into a team that could give you salary and really make something out of it. Try to take like 3 to 6 months off, like save up money and like give it a full shot. You know, take 6 months and move back home if you have to. You know, try to reduce your rent and just grind for those 6 months and give yourself kind of a limit and then kind of call it. Because, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to keep trying 23, 24, 20. Like you can keep playing, but I think you can end up ruining your life a little bit.
It definitely depends where the person who asked the question is from. So if you're from, for example, like France, where you need like 2k euros monthly to live up proper life, well, that's going to be a hard time. But if you're from, like, let's say Romania, where you need 500 euros, well, then probably scrimming and winning cash cups and streaming and doing content on the side, like that will earn you enough to actually make it worthwhile. But that would be never worthwhile in France. So it depends where you're from, which country you're from. And if you're ever thinking about like leaving school to become a professional player, don't do it. If it's high school especially, like it's the biggest no-brainer thing to do. Like statistically speaking, it doesn't make sense at all. If you want to be a pro player and you think that school is holding you back, that's a lie that you're telling to yourself. Like, you know, even if you're in school, you kind of would know if you're good enough to be a pro gamer, and you would already have a contract. and don't leave high school before you actually sign a contract with the team. That's my advice to everyone who's even thinking about this. College is a little bit different, but think about it this way. If you're thinking like school is taking so much time away from you, imagine this. You're going to leave a school, you don't have a team, you're trying to make it pro, but as soon as you leave the school, actually, in every country you live, I'm pretty sure you need to start paying taxes immediately. If you're still a student of that school, you're still freed from all the taxes and all that kind of grown-up adulthood shit that comes along the way. And being in school actually enables you to play Counter-Strike at a very good level and in reasonable, like, well, time frame. You have time to practice.
Yeah, homework
As soon
doesn't
as you
take
leave
that long, especially if you're not giving 100%, right? Like if you're not trying to get like 100% on every test. I agree. I mean, I've known a couple players that dropped out to go pro. Like Twist was one of them. You know, Cynic, rest in peace. Like he dropped out of high school. There's a bunch of players, and like I agree with you though. It's like Zaiwu was going to school the whole time that he was slaughtering everyone in tier 2, right? Like yeah, it was just tier 2, but like people I know people were saying, oh, it won't translate. It's like, I don't know, dude. When you're playing tier 2 and you're getting 30 and 5 every game, you're good. Like it just maybe doesn't translate 1-for-1 with everyone, but like you have to be good to do that. So whenever people tell me, oh, I'm stuck in elo hell or my teammates are bad, I'm like, well, then you're not as good as you think, because you're never going to get stuck at level 7 on Face It because your teammates are bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sure, you might not, you can obviously lose team games from your teammates, but like, you throw Xantares in a level 7 Face It pug, like he's getting level 10. Like it doesn't, like it doesn't matter. Like, so I think people have like this cop out of like, they try to blame external factors a lot. And it's like, if you're good, you're probably not listening to a podcast wondering if you should go pro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you probably have it. You're like Donk or Zaiwu, or like, you probably have it. Like, that's just my like kind of opinion. And like that same thing with bodybuilding, like people will go all the way and try it, and they just don't have it, and they'll never admit it to themselves. Sometimes you have to admit you're not going to make it, you know, and it sucks, but you got to be realistic, right?
Yeah, it's fine to admit it yourself rather than trying it and finding out by others telling you.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like you're basically resetting your potential and trying, you have suddenly more time to find something new. And that's completely okay. Like people change career. Like right now, it's pretty normal to change careers midlife even.
Yeah.
Like it's, I know a couple of people that turn 30 and they suddenly want to try something different. And then they will turn 50 and maybe they will do something completely different for 10 years before they retire. You know, like the world, the opportunities in today's world are like just insane.
No, and there's way more interconnected.
Be okay with changes.
Yeah, you can always go to Valorant, right?
Yeah, well, that's a great point.
All right, we got a couple more, and then I'll let you go. Michael Bear, who's actually one of my fitness clients, he's actually listens to everything I say. Great client, just actually listens. Really nice. His perspective on skill versus game sense, intelligence. What makes the perfect team mix? Is one big-brained IGL with 4 elite fraggers best, or is another high IQ player better as a support secondary caller type position? Just his overall thoughts.
Yeah, I personally think everyone, even players with insane aim that are so-called aimers, if they're not having that kind of game intelligence imprinted into them already, it's going to be hard to unlock the potential with the aim you have. Like, you need to be able to find timings. You need to be able to paint a picture of the round through comms across the map. Like, you need to have that. Everyone needs to have brain to become a pro player. Like, honestly, like, I don't know a player that made it to a pro level that was dumb in game.
Yeah.
You know, that it just got carried there because of the aim. And people will say, like, Santares is like that. No, like, the guy is clearly... he's reading the game. You don't know about it. He's reading the game, maybe not on macro level, but on micro level, with the way he peaks and he's being peaked. It's just insane.
Yeah.
It's really good. And maybe we don't know that. I don't know that personally. I never talked to the guy, but maybe he's helping a lot with strats, with nades, with something, you know. So intelligence is one thing. Emotional intelligence is another thing. In a team where you want to become a winner, you just need to have that. Like, you need to be able to give criticism, constructive criticism, take it, be able to argue, be able to push for your own truth, but also listen to others and come to compromises. If you're not able to do that in a team game of Counter-Strike, you're going to have a hard time fitting into any team.
I agree. I think people get a bad rap of just being aimers. I think people kind of labeled simple like that originally, but obviously you can also grow as a player over time with more experience as well. And usually players that get really good are good at adapting. Like, that's why they got good. Like, you have good pattern recognition is kind of what I think is like this happened, so next time I'm not going to do this because it got me killed. Like, if you don't think like that, you're never going to be good. Like, you have to be able to, like, honestly assess and reflect. Yeah, like, every death you have, like, if you get triple naded randomly, it's like, okay, you don't have to, you don't have to, like, reflect on every single death that you have.
Yeah.
But like, if you push something and died, you got to think, like, okay, was that push good, but he was just ready for it and I should do it again? Because sometimes just because you die doesn't mean your play is bad. Like, that's another thing people forget is, like, they push something on a timing and then someone's holding, they die, and then they don't do it again in the game. But it's like, no, your play was good, you just got a little unlucky. Like, you got to be able to, like, kind of assess, I feel like, of when you did the right thing or if you just missed. I mean, there's been times when I called inner strats on train, for example, when I was on Splice, and the strat is good, we go in there, we lose the round, and then my teammates are like, honestly, Corey, like, I just whiffed on the back pop guy, or else I think that would have been good. I'm like, all right, cool, like, let's run it again. Like, sometimes you don't win a round because just, off day,
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think
shit happens. It's CS. Like, you miss a shot. The aim is the least. I mean, it's hardest part of a Counter-Strike to get a consistent aim because, well, aiming is hard. It's difficult. And sometimes you're going to have better day. Sometimes you're going to have a worse day. What you can make consistent are things that are actually in your control, like communication, decision-making, or like set of strats, or like building a game plan. Yeah, you can be consistent at those. But aiming is just a variable. And sometimes it's going to be bad and it's going to lose you around where you whiff. Happens to everyone.
all right, we're going to finish this off with this a kind of a funnier question. Would you rather fight 1,000 duck-sized bears or one bear-sized duck?
Do I have any weapons? My bare hands?
Just your bare hands.
You know what? I'm going to fight the single duck.
The single duck?
The thing is, like, those little bears might be so cute. Kind of remind me of my dog sometimes,
You don't want to
It's a
kill
little
him.
bear as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of guys pick the one duck, the big duck, and I'm just like, I just wonder how strong it would actually be, because
Yeah, I think it's gonna snap my head off
I know,
instantly.
right? Just a big ass beak. Yeah, and then I was gonna rapid fire your top 3 operas and top 3 riflers right now.
Right now, top 3 Opers, definitely Zaivu, definitely Monte, and you know what? I'm gonna say Shiro.
Yeah.
Just because I saw a game today of Spirit. I don't know. Shiro Wonderful. It's kind of
I
hard to say.
have a soft spot for Shiro, honestly. I like his playstyle. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but
I like him more. For about the riflers, well, I would say Nico, Donk, obviously, and I personally like Sershin. I know they're having rough time right now, but I like the guy.
he's very good, honestly, at opening space up, like, super talented.
I'm just looking if I didn't forget someone, but yeah. Who did I say? Donk, Nico, and
Yeah.
Sershin? Yeah, I'm gonna go with those.
Fair enough. All right, man. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I really appreciate the interview. I think that was a good chat. Good information for all the players that are trying to come up and get to become a pro. So, Yeah, thank you, man. Is there anything you want to say to people? Anything that you want them to follow? I'll put your YouTube and your Twitter in the YouTube, but
Oh, thank you. Well, just keep grinding, guys. It's gonna pay off eventually. And thank you for having me. It was nice talking to you, and hoping to catch up soon.
awesome. Peace, man.